Yo, what's going on, guys? Crispy Flakes here. Welcome to Extra Crispy. For today's video, we got the 50 best players in the NBA, a video by B-Souls, and I will say straight up, like, it takes some damn guts to go out there and put out a top 50 NBA players list, because that is like instant kind of like free way for people to come out and start roasting you and stuff like that, just because people got so many different opinions when it comes to this stuff. And realistically, there's really no right answer. Like, we all have our opinions. So when I watch these top 50 lists, in my opinion, as long as I'm seeing the person is going out there being consistent with their rankings and giving reasons behind it, that's good enough for me. So yeah, man, I do know B-Souls knows the stuff when it comes to the NBA, knows, you know, stuff when it comes to basketball players in general, right, man? So it should be interesting. It does have 3,000 likes, 413 dislikes, which is really not a bad ratio for this type of video right here. So yeah, let's hop into it, see what it's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, the man who's trying to make everyone happy is back. It feels good to say that. And today we are back with another video.
Let's
Two
get
videos ago, I did my top 50 all-time list. And with this break we have, I think it's a good time to reflect.
I did not actually check that one out, though.
Is looking right now. Today we're going to be going over my top 50 players in the NBA as of mid-April 2020. If y'all didn't watch my all-time top 50, the players I will list off will be in order according to my opinion, but I will also be simultaneously incorporating tiers, which is generally represent a clump of players that I believe, for the most part, emphasis on the most part, are interchangeable.
Like, okay, again, that's a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it.
Opinion, but it should ease.
So guys, pay attention to the tiers here, guys, because if you see somebody's in front of somebody, but they're in the same tier, it's like you can replace them, right? Now, if you think somebody belongs in a different tier, well, that's a different story. That's something to really argue, right?
Those so-and-so is over so-and-so comments. Like, already, I don't agree with the way you ordered them personally, but I see where you're coming from. Also, this list is considering everyone healthy, but also considering how they'll play after their injury.
Sure.
So, for example, Kevin Durant will be evaluated based on how I think his injury will affect his production once he's fully healthy.
I love Kevin Durant. I don't think he'll be the same player coming back. I think you're going to see him play a lot more on the perimeter, as opposed to, you know, getting to the basket and stuff like that, or you may be going in a trick bag a little bit more. I think we're going to see a very perimeter heavy 10 3-point attempt type of guy, you know, when he comes back from injury.
The same with Klay Thompson, the same with Kyrie Irving, etc., etc.
With maybe defense going down a bit.
Rules and regulations out the way. One last thing, let me know what y'all think inspired the thumbnail. Hint, it's not an album this time. And also leave a like for more content like this. It helps out a lot. Only takes 5 seconds of your time.
Yes, sir. It takes less than that, guys. Less than that, guys.
The honorable mentions, I do want to do some honorable mentions for this video because there are a lot of talented players in the NBA that missed the cut. Shout out to Jamal Murray, Tobias Harris, Marcus Smart, Fred VanVleet,
we got some
Dennis
names.
Schroeder, Hassan Whiteside, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Norman Powell, Eric Bledsoe, Buddy Hield, Derrick Rose.
No, okay, I'm joking. I'm just joking.
John Collins, and Draymond Green.
Okay, you got Lou Will up there. John Collins, I'm kind of surprised by. I would probably say the way John Collins been playing towards the end of the season, you could say top 50 player, but okay, let's see who's got over him.
Especially Draymond Green, because he's one of those players that really raised the ceiling of a great team, but if he's on a bad team, his talents aren't really put to use.
I agree.
I believe once Steph and Klay do come back next year, I believe he's going to be much more effective, and he will remind people
I'm looking on screen or off screen
years ago who was viewed as an
we're good.
top 20 player in the league. Also, shout out to Blake Griffin, John Wall, and Victor Oladipo.
Injuries.
Players who can easily change my list depending on how they bounce back from their injuries.
Agreed.
Now that we got the honorable mentions out the way, let's go ahead and start listing out the actual top 50, starting with Montrezl Harrell at 50, TJ Warren at 49, DeAndre Ayton at 48, Nikola Vucevic at 47, Jaren Jackson Jr. at 46, De'Aaron Fox at 45, John Morant at 44, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 43, LaMarcus Aldridge at 42, and Gordon Hayward at...
Okay, looking at this first tier, as far as like interchangeable, yeah, you can definitely argue a lot of these. As far as like, you know, one guy being in front of the other. For me, I think I would rather have John Collins over TJ Warren at least. I mean, that's just my first one that I'm kind of seeing out there. You know, Vucevic still putting up decent numbers this season. I don't, he definitely didn't play at like an all-star level, but if he did, he would be up higher on the list, obviously, for that reason, right? Okay, I'm not like upset yet. I'm not upset, so sure.
So let's start this video with the first 10, which also means we are starting off with all of tier 6.
So like Montrez might be able to be up a little higher too.
There might be a couple more in the honorable mentions that
taking Montrez over DeAndre.
Tier. Couple of things to highlight in this part of the list. One, Ja Morant over Jaren Jackson. I know some of y'all think that Jaren Jackson is better than Ja, which again I honestly see
I'm
that
not one of them.
viewpoint, and I myself was contemplating it, so I put them in the same tier. But me personally, I think Ja Morant is the driving force of that team, which is why I have him ahead of Jaren Jackson. Also, is that Gordon Hayward at 41? Trash Hayward? Look, I must say, Gordon Hayward has definitely proved me wrong this year in terms of his production, and shout out to him for that. Because
Hey, he's another one of those guys where it took a little while to get back from injury. He's finally returning to his form. So, you know, we call a lot of these players trash initially when they come back from injuries. A few months pass by, they're not really doing much, but got a shout out Gordon Hayward for sure.
This season, he's having a sneaky good season, averaging 17 points, 4 assists, 6 rebounds on 50, 39, 85 splits. But aside from that, not much else to go over in this part of the list. Let's go ahead and move on to the top 40, starting with Zach LaVine at 40. Drew Holiday at 39.
I'll take LaVine over Drew.
Sabonis at 38. Zion Williamson at 37. DeMar DeRozan at 36. CJ McCollum at 35. D'Angelo Russell at 34. Jaylen Brown at 33. Trae Young at 32. And Devin Booker at 31.
Ooh, damn. Okay. I really got to see the entire list. I'm gonna stop pausing, guys. I'm gonna watch his thoughts, his opinions, and then I will react to the entire list at the end. I think
this
probably
is
the
where
way to
it
do
starts getting controversial.
Right.
Zach LaVine at 40, the guy averaging 26, 4, and 5 on good shooting splits. Zach LaVine is the 40th best player in the league. Is that Trae Young at 32? Is that Devin?
I can see
Booker
Trae because
at
of the
31?
defense.
30 points and 9 assists a game. Trae Young at 32. 26, 7, and 4 on great efficiency. Devin Booker at 31.
Right.
Bezos, how could you? Man, you're just doing this for views. This guy's trash. Why am I even watching this? Look, I swear I'm not just trying to have a hot take. I swear to God.
Hey, it's okay. I like hot
spent a
takes.
decent amount of time on this list and making sure I was as consistent as possible. But the reason I genuinely think that the NBA is just this talented, I can't think of an era where you can make an argument that a player who averaged 29 and 9 is
Starting point guard on the All-Star team.
Best, that's to the most delusional Trae Young fans. At best, 13. And with the names I have above him, I believe a lot of them are just as good offensive players and contribute more to the game, whether that be being a much better player on the defensive end.
So it sounds like he's giving Trae Young the T-Wolf Kevin Love treatment, where it's like, you know, obviously great numbers on a not good team, where, you know, if you want that team to have success, the guy putting up those numbers is going to have to pull back a little bit, and he's going to need some help and stuff like that. So,
being a better
all right, I think that's kind of what he's going with this tier.
Just a clarification, what I just said right
For
now
the most part.
is not just for Trae Young. It applies for this group of players like Devin Booker, Zach LaVine, and Trae Young, because I do understand that there are not many better playmakers than him. A couple of the players above him also don't fall in that specific category of being a better offensive player and contributing more to the game, but I am giving them the benefit of the doubt due to their intangibles and their ability to contribute to a winning franchise, which I believe is easier said than done. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move on to the top 30.
I feel like Sabonis is a little bit too, like, 38 for Sabonis seems a little bit too low for me, just because, like, you know, the Pacers are a great team. And at this point, you know, we do got the Pacers with TJ and Sabonis, 2 top 50 players according to this list here. But, okay.
Number 30, we have Chris Middleton. 29, Bradley Beal.
Ooh, Bradley Beal at 29. Damn, man.
27, Bam Adebayo.
Oh, my.
26, Brandon Ingram. 25, Kemba Walker. 24, Donovan Mitchell. 23, Kyle Lowry. 22, Rudy Gobert, and 21, Karl Anthony Towns. Again, more controversial placements that I was honestly surprised as well because of where I thought they'd rank prior to making this list. But again, to highlight some of the problems some of you guys might have with this part of the list, number 1, Bradley Beal at 29.
Yeah, that was my first one.
31 points, 6 and 5 on good shooting splits is being placed at 29. I place him there the same reason I placed Devin Booker, Trae Young, and Zach LaVine where they are. Because I do think that their stats are inflated due to A, the pace of the league,
I respect that take.
In, C, their role in said system, and D, their effectiveness on the defensive end, no pun intended, has been kind of overlooked.
I do respect that take.
I really did try to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it would just be hypocritical on my part to have, let's say, Kristaps Porzingis over Trae Young, but not over Bradley Beal, when the reason I have Porzingis over Trae Young perfectly applies to Bradley Beal as well. The placement of players like Kemba Walker, Kyle Lowry, and D. Mitch over those players who are putting up these crazy.
I guess we do have to base players off the, like, the circumstance they're currently in, but I guess I look at it like this. Kristaps is the second option on the Dallas Mavericks to Luka Doncic. if you were to replace Kristaps with Bradley Beal and Bradley Beal assumed that Kristaps' role, would the Mavericks be better for it? I guess in the end of the day. But it's like I said, we don't know because we don't actually see that. Like, this is what we see, and this is how teams are based off their win or loss, and, you know, how players fit into the system and stuff like that, and what they bring to a team. So, okay.
Crazy numbers are attributed to that contributor on a winning team reasoning I mentioned earlier. But what about Karl Anthony Towns? Because he seems like a player that should also be in the lower 20s based on everything I've just said. And you know what? I completely
he's like the center of
he is a player
Devin Booker's.
who is not that good defensively, who is putting up monstrous offensive numbers, who isn't winning. Just like Devin Booker, Zach LaVine, Trae Young, and Bradley Beal. But the way I look at it, a 6'11" center averaging 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 4 assists on 51, 41, 80 splits, shooting 8 threes a game is much different from a guard averaging 25 plus points per game in today's league.
Sure.
There's more you can do to stop a scoring guard or a scoring wing than you can to a 6'11" center that talented. Those numbers and his skill set are so ridiculous that me putting him at 21, in my opinion, is the lowest I can go. Now let's move on to the top 20. Starting with Ben Simmons at 20, Pascal Siakam at 19, Klay Thompson at 18, Chris Paul at 17, Joel Embiid at 16, Jason Tatum at 15, Paul George at 14, Jimmy Butler at 13, Russell Westbrook at 12, and Kyrie Irving at 11.
Alright, last year I would agree with Paul George at 14. I think this season, as of right now, you know, because we are putting injuries, you know, into the, well, you know, I guess he did assume everybody healthy, so that's why. But he said Blake Griffin and Oladipo because we don't really know if they're like completely healthy. But okay, I feel Ben Simmons might be a little low at 20. I think I would move him up a little bit. Now, don't ask me over who, because, like I said, top 50 lists are tough, but, you know, I feel a bit like Ben Simmons doesn't get enough credit this season, mainly, you know, what he's doing defensively. Just people say, like, offensively, he's not really bringing much more, but it's like defensively, really taken to another tier. You know, Chris Paul, I respect his rating, what he's done with the OKC Thunder. Pascal Siakam's been great for the Toronto Raptors. Klay Thompson, I get it. I get it with Klay Thompson because he assumes that once healthy and coming back and stuff, Klay Thompson will be fine. But I could see Klay Thompson really taking a step back, just like defensively mainly. Okay.
So again, let's go over some of the problems you guys might have with this part of the list. Number one, the Embiid and Ben Simmons placement, more specifically Embiid being 4 spots higher than Ben Simmons and also in a different tier. Now I'm going to be honest, in my revisions, there was a draft where I had Ben Simmons over Embiid, and in that draft they were also right next to each other. So if you're watching this video, you do have the context of knowing that I do believe that they are much closer than even what my own list makes it seem. However, the reason I changed it to the way I did is because if I move Embiid closer to 20, that would mean that I'd be saying Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, and Siakam are better, which I just
really not like a Joel Embiid.
If you move Ben Simmons closer to 16 where Embiid is right now, that would mean that I'm saying that those 3 players are not better than Ben Simmons, which again, I don't agree with. So it was more so of a consistency decision than it was some statement about Embiid being much better than Ben Simmons. Despite what my list actually says, I do believe that they are around the same tier and are closer than what my list makes it seem. Also, let's talk about Klay Thompson and Kyrie, because they are
that means he got Jokic for sure over Embiid.
Video when it pertained to injuries affecting their ranking. And with what I said earlier, why are they so high on this list? Well, for one, while Klay's injury was definitely a serious one, I honestly don't expect that much of a drop off from him even after his injury. I still believe he'll be the elite shooter we've always known him as. He'll still be a great wing defender, maybe not as good as he was before, but as long as those 2 things don't take a drastic fall off, I don't think his effectiveness will change that much from before his injury. Kyrie, on the other hand,
jump shot will be fine. Defense, I'm really concerned.
His career that he can bounce back from numerous amounts of injuries and still play at a high level. And as far as leadership and stuff like that goes, I've already made a separate video on how I believe all of that is just blown way out of proportion, so that didn't really affect my ranking.
Yeah, leadership in the end of the day, it's like it's important, but I can see why he's not using that for this particular list. Like that's a different conversation.
Push comes to shove, Kyrie Irving is going to be a 25 point per game caliber player on great efficiency, be one of the best shot creators and closers in the league, and will be in a position that everyone has been saying he will thrive in, right? As a second option. So in that sense, I'm giving Kyrie the benefit of the doubt. However, I will say for the first time ever, I am fully open to anyone who believes Westbrook is better than Kyrie from 1, a reliability standpoint, and 2, his improvement this year in terms of efficiency has really closed that gap as well. And while yes, I know that
Westbrook has done what we need to see Kyrie do with Kevin Durant now. That is be that second option. Obviously, Kyrie's been the second option. The pass to LeBron worked out great, championships, stuff like that. But yeah, the big knockoff is that, you know, on the Celtics, Kyrie was the main guy, didn't work out, but now he's going back to that second option role with Kevin Durant being healthy and stuff like that. So it will be interesting to see how it all works out. But yeah, I agree with what he's saying.
It is a knock on him that he needs the greatest spacing in history just to average 48% from the field. But the truth is, this is going to be the player we'll be watching for the next 2 to 3 years. A guy who's going to be capable of putting up 26 to 28 points per game, around 7 to 8 rebounds and assists.
Yeah, he's like Simmons. He's great for other reasons
from the field.
that are not with shooting.
Him is just countered with, but he's in this system though, because yes, his numbers are affected by his system, but systems do create players and playstyles, and that's just the nature of the game. Also, for him to be doing what he's doing as a second option to a team that was going to win 51 to 53 games goes against a lot of the criticism against him the past 2 years. So once again, shout out to Russell Westbrook for that. Y'all probably never thought you'd hear me praise Russell Westbrook, but here I am. The last thing
he was doing good last year with Paul George being number 1 option,
because some might make the claim that I'm jumping the gun too much for quote-unquote just a month of play, but the reality is for the entirety of the season, Jason Tatum has been averaging 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists on great shooting splits while being a great defender, one of the best.
Yeah, I would be more upset if he had like Zion up here, because Zion's putting up great numbers, but very small sample size. So yeah, Tatum's been killing it all season.
Shot creators in the league and leading the Celtics to a 55-win season. I just don't see how that production isn't up there with the likes of Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook. But I think that's enough about the 20 to 11 spots. It's time to talk about my top 10. And coming in at number 10, we have Damian Lillard. Number 9, Nikola Jokic. Number 8, Luka Doncic.
Okay.
Number 7, Kevin Durant. Number 6, Anthony Davis. Number 5, James Harden. Number 4, Stephen Curry. Number 3, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Number 2, LeBron James. And number 1, Kawhi.
It does have Kawhi number 1. Okay. Looking at this part of it so far, I will say Kevin Durant at number 7, because I feel like because I'm looking at him as compared to Luka Doncic, I feel like if Kevin Durant has that big a drop off where he's no longer a top 5 player, then I think at that point Luka overtakes him. But if Kevin Durant doesn't have that big of a drop off, I feel like he should be higher on this list. I don't know. It's kind of a weird way to like say it, but it's like my opinion on Kevin Durant is like how much he falls off. But it's like I feel like he's either gonna have a big fall off or it's not gonna be that big a deal. You know, like, all right, yeah, I don't know. I gotta see what he says.
Leonard. Now let's just get right into it. Dame being a tier above Russ and Kyrie, yeah, I think he deserves it.
Sure.
Dame just came off a season where he led the Blazers to the Western Conference Finals.
I had no issue with this one whatsoever. I agree with this 100%.
The best point guard in the league. Well, unless you consider LeBron and Harden, and maybe you think Russ is better. Okay, let's go with the majority of people believing that he's the best point guard in the league this season, as he's been averaging 29 points on great efficiency and 8 assists on a really good assist to turnover ratio. Now granted, the Blazers have struggled, and I can see why you might believe that it's hypocritical of me to put him there.
I was going to point that out.
I ran about Bradley Beal.
I was going to point that out.
Early on, because it seems like he does fit in that category. But I challenge you to make a list and put Damian Lillard at 20. It just wouldn't make any sense. Also, the difference is Damian Lillard has already proven that he can be a leader of a playoff team. A leader of a team that can make it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. And has been doing this for 3+ years now. That's the difference. Next up,
fair enough.
I want to talk about the biggest elephant in the room when it comes to my top 10, because up to this point, it seems like I've been optimistic about all the injured players. Despite their injuries, I still have Kyrie at 11, I still have Klay Thompson at 18, and even in my top 10, I still have Stephen Curry at 4. But again, Kyrie Irving has proven to bounce back from a lot of injuries, and he's still yet to have a major career-shifting injury. Knock on wood, I really hope nothing happens. His problem is a lot of small injuries adding up, but once again, he hasn't really shown that those small injuries can affect his play dramatically once he heals from them. Klay Thompson, again, I don't think he'll be affected much by his injury because of the way he plays. Stephen Curry had a hand injury on his offhand, and while yes, I know that's still important,
yeah, he'll be good.
I have full confidence that he'll be fully healthy after a given amount of time, and he didn't have an injury that would affect how he moves on the court. in terms of his legs. But Kevin Durant, on the other hand,
that's what I'm concerned
tore
with.
His Achilles. In history, only Dominique Wilkins has fully come back from that injury like nothing happened. He came back from a torn Achilles and was still dropping 28 to 29 points a game, which is insane. And while yes, Kevin Durant did suffer an injury in 2015 that sidelined him for a while, and he came back in 2016 and pushed a 73-win Warriors team to 7 games, while that injury was a serious one, this one is a torn Achilles. Just take some time to research how serious this injury is and how many players have come back from it successfully.
I have a feeling with Durant, we're going to see, well, I said earlier, a lot of three-point shots. Honestly, this might be a weird comparison, but this was actually I think this was actually one of his NBA draft comparisons. I could see Kevin Durant being a more high three-point volume version of Dirk Nowitzki. Like, I could see him going to the post a lot, really relying on his length a lot over players, playing the 4 spot. That's kind of what I'm seeing Durant, potentially becoming.
I put Kevin Durant at 7 on the assumption that he'll come back and be a 25 to 26 point per game scorer, while grabbing 5 to 6 rebounds and 45 assists a game on like 47, 37, 85
Right, is that better
splits,
than Luka though?
all while being a less effective player on the defensive end because of how the injury would affect his movement. That's still a great player, don't get me wrong. And I will say that if he does fully recover, then by all means put him back in tier 1 with those guys. But until I actually see that happen, as far as I'm concerned, 7 is the highest I can put him right now. Now, Curry being tier 1 is me just giving him a pass for the 2020
Oh yeah,
season.
no, honestly, I was getting a little confused. Okay, I did not notice he had the red and then the blue. Okay, I did not notice that. Okay.
Just assuming that he'll be what he was in the 2019
I was not paying attention to the colors
season.
at all. I was doing by like
LeBron
lines.
over Giannis,
Okay, my
while
bad.
It sounds like it would be a hypocritical statement. After I made a video on how Giannis should be the unanimous MVP, I don't believe that's a hypocritical statement because I've said numerous times, actually I just said in my last video, that the MVP race does not indicate who's a better player. But I will say depending on how the playoffs play
Story
out,
driven.
if they play out, that could totally change my top 3. And last but not least, to explain Kawhi at 1, I just believe that his postseason run last year proved that he was the best player in the league. And after the finals, no one had anything to say when people claimed that Kawhi was the best player. And since then, Kawhi has maintained that production. The Clippers are still going to win 56 to 57 games, which is not the 65 that the Lakers were.
I love
on pace
Kawhi
to
Leonard.
do,
I have no
but it's
issues with
still
him at number
nothing to
1.
be ashamed of. And I just don't believe that LeBron leading the Lakers to a top seed in the regular season after all the additions they made in the offseason changes that. And when it comes to Giannis, the argument for Giannis over Kawhi last season is essentially the same this year, with the margin being bigger because of the Bucks having more wins and Giannis being a better shooter. But again, the playoffs showed a different result. And while I was really anticipating the playoffs to settle that dispute at the top 3 for me, until that happens, this is my order. But once again, I do believe that they are in the same tier.
Okay, so that's done with the ranking part there, guys. I will say, obviously, if I were to do a top 50 list, maybe someday, we'll see how it all goes. Mine's probably looking way different, just for whatever reasons. We just all value players differently and stuff like that, man. But as far as his reasoning, like he has the reasoning. He's not saying Bradley Beal's a bad player. He's just saying that he values, putting up stats, but also your team winning because of it and stuff like that too. And of course, a lot of these players, while they do put up great stats, you also are victim of the guys that are around you, the coaching staff, the system that gets run, but that all kind of factors into things, right? So I'll say overall, not really any big time complaints, guys. So do I agree with every single ranking? No, of course not. I mean, nobody ever will. But did he have good reasonings? Sure.